Deep in the Carina Nebula's outer reaches, the salvage vessel New Horizons drifted silently through the cosmic debris field. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the bridge's main viewport, her experienced eyes fixed on the massive shape emerging from the stellar dust. The alien warship was unlike anything she'd seen in 15 years of deep space salvage operations. "Initial scan complete, Captain," announced Dr. James Kumar, his dark eyes reflecting the holographic readouts floating before him. "The vessel's about 3 times our size. Definitely Valkyrie design." But he trailed off, frowning at the data. "But what, James?" Sarah asked, though she already suspected the answer. The Valkyrie were legendary shipwrights, their vessels prized throughout known space. Finding one abandoned was unprecedented. "But it's completely dead. No power signatures, no residual energy fields, nothing. It's like someone deliberately zeroed out every system on board." James manipulated the holographic display, highlighting structural damage across the alien ship's hull. "The weird thing is, the damage patterns are too precise. This wasn't combat damage. Someone did this intentionally." Lieutenant Maya Patel, their systems specialist, stepped closer to the display. Her cybernetic eyes whirred softly as they adjusted, taking in every detail. "Look at these energy dispersion patterns," she said, gesturing to specific areas. "They didn't just shut it down. They designed the shutdown to make reactivation practically impossible. It's like a technological puzzle box." Sarah smiled slightly. If there was one thing humans excelled at, it was solving puzzles that others deemed impossible. "What's our structural assessment?" "Hull integrity at 43%, Maya reported. "Internal systems are a maze of broken connections and dead ends. The Valkyrie used quantum-locked materials in their construction, materials that were specifically designed to resist standard repair methods. Most salvage crews would mark this as unsalvageable." "Good thing we're not most salvage crews," Sarah replied. She turned to address the bridge crew. "The Galactic Salvage Commission has tried 3 times to recover this vessel. 3 different species, 3 different approaches, 3 failures. They're calling it impossible." A quiet chuckle rippled through the bridge. In the decades since humanity had joined the galactic community, impossible had become something of a specialty. Where other species saw technological barriers, humans saw challenges to overcome. "Maya, I want a detailed scan of those quantum-locked materials. James, start mapping those deliberate damage patterns. There has to be logic behind them. And get Raj up here from engineering. If anyone can make sense of Valkyrie tech, it's him." The next few hours were a flurry of activity. The New Horizons moved into a stable orbit around the derelict vessel, while teams of specialists pored over scan data. Raj Patel, Maya's brother, and the ship's chief engineer arrived on the bridge with his trademark excited grin. "Captain, you need to see this," he said, pulling up his own set of holographic displays. "The Valkyrie didn't just build ships. They grew them. The quantum-locked materials Maya found. They're part of a larger crystalline matrix that runs throughout the entire vessel. It's not just a hull, it's more like a nervous system." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Grew them? Think of it like a technological coral reef," Raj explained, his hands moving animatedly. "They created the basic framework, but the ship itself would adapt and evolve based on use. The quantum locking wasn't just for protection, it was to control the growth process. Which means," Maya interjected, "when they shut it down, they weren't just disabling systems. They were putting it into a kind of technological stasis." The implications hit Sarah like a physical force. They weren't looking at a simple repair job. They were looking at the possibility of reawakening something that was, in essence, alive. "What kind of resources would we need to attempt reactivation?" she asked. James consulted his displays. With standard methods, it would be impossible. But he glanced at Raj, who was practically bouncing with excitement. "But we're not going to use standard methods," Raj finished. "The Valkyrie designed these ships to evolve. Instead of trying to repair it their way, we adapt it to work our way. Human technology isn't as advanced as theirs was, but we're better at improvising, at making different systems work together in ways they were never designed to. Sarah turned back to the viewport, studying the massive vessel. Other salvage crews had tried to restore it to what it was. But perhaps the key wasn't restoration. It was evolution. "Begin docking procedures," she ordered. "Maya, I want you and Raj to start designing interface protocols. James, coordinate with the science team on mapping those damage patterns. We're not just going to repair this ship, we're going to wake it up." As the New Horizons maneuvered into position, none of them noticed the faint flicker of energy deep within the alien vessel's crystalline matrix. Like a dreaming giant, something stirred, responding to the presence of these strange new entities. The Valkyrie had designed their ships to evolve, to adapt, to grow. They had never imagined what might happen when that evolutionary capacity was combined with human ingenuity. The impossible salvage operation was about to become something unprecedented in galactic history. The interior of the Valkyrie vessel was a cathedral of shadows, illuminated only by the team's portable lights and Maya's glowing cybernetic eyes. Captain Chen led the initial boarding party through corridors that seemed to spiral and flow like frozen rivers, their crystalline surfaces absorbing and refracting light in mesmerizing patterns. "This isn't just a ship," Raj whispered, his handheld scanner painting invisible data across his augmented reality display. "It's a work of art." His fingers traced patterns in the crystalline walls, following the complex networks of what they now knew to be dormant technological nervous systems. Maya's cybernetic eyes wavered as they adjusted, penetrating layers of darkness to reveal structural patterns invisible to normal human vision. "The quantum-locked matrices are more complex than our initial scan suggested. They're not just pathways. They're more like synapses. This ship wasn't just alive, it was conscious." The team had established their primary operations center in what appeared to be the vessel's equivalent of a bridge. James Kumar sat surrounded by portable holographic interfaces, each displaying different aspects of the ship's systems. The Valkyrie didn't just advance their technology, he observed, they evolved it. Each system is designed to learn, to adapt, to become more than its original programming. Sarah watched her crew work, pride mixing with anticipation. Where other salvage teams had tried to impose their understanding of technology onto the vessel, her team was trying to understand it on its own terms. "What's our status on the interface protocols?" Raj looked up from a particularly complex crystal node he'd been examining. "Traditional methods won't work. The ship's systems don't just process data. They experience it. We need to do more than send signals. We need to communicate." "Communicate with a ship?" James asked, raising an eyebrow. Maya stepped forward, her cybernetic eyes flickering with excitement. "Not exactly. We're not trying to talk to it. We're trying to remind it how to talk to itself. Look at this." She projected a holographic display showing energy patterns within the crystalline walls. The shutdown wasn't just thorough, it was traumatic. The ship's consciousness didn't die, it fragmented. Like a technological coma. Sarah mused, beginning to understand. "So instead of trying to force it awake, we guide it back together," Raj finished, already pulling up designs on his interface. "We create bridges between the fragments, using our technology not to control, but to connect." The next several hours were a symphony of human innovation. Maya's cybernetic systems interfaced with the ship's crystalline matrix, mapping neural pathways that had lain dormant for centuries. Raj's team deployed specially designed quantum resonators, devices that could echo the ship's original energy patterns, creating harmonic frequencies that the fractured systems might recognize. James coordinated it all from his holographic command center, watching as tiny sparks of energy began to flicker through the crystalline networks. "It's like watching a brain rebuild itself," he commented, fascination evident in his voice. But it wasn't until Area Joe, their quantum mechanics specialist, made a breakthrough that things truly began to change. "The crystalline matrix," she announced, rushing into the operations center. "It's not just a nervous system. It's a quantum computer. The Valkyrie didn't just grow their ships, they grew artificial quantum states. The implications were staggering. Quantum computing on a biological scale, systems that could literally think in multiple realities simultaneously. It explained why standard repair methods had failed. They were trying to fix quantum biology with classical technology. "So how do we wake up a quantum computer?" Sarah asked, though she could already see the excitement building in Aria's eyes. "We don't," Aria replied, grinning. "We give it a puzzle it can't resist solving. Itself." Her fingers flew across her interface, implementing a new approach. Instead of trying to reactivate systems directly, they began introducing quantum paradoxes into the crystalline matrix, mathematical and logical problems that could only be resolved through quantum processing. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Energy began to pulse through the crystalline networks, not in the ordered patterns they'd expected, but in waves of possibility, each pulse exploring multiple solutions simultaneously. The ship wasn't just waking up, it was remembering how to think. Multiple systems showing signs of reactivation. James reported, his displays alive with activity, power levels rising across all networks. But he paused, frowning at the data. These patterns aren't matching any known Valkyrie configurations. "Of course not," Maya replied, her cybernetic eyes tracking the cascade of awakening systems. "We're not just restarting it. We're helping it evolve. The ship isn't trying to be what it was. It's becoming something new." Sarah watched as sections of the vessel began to illuminate from within, the crystalline matrices glowing with an inner light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Other salvage teams had failed because they tried to impose their understanding of technology onto something that defied conventional understanding. Her team had succeeded because they approached it not as a problem to solve, but as a life form to heal. Deep within the ship's quantum core, consciousness began to reassemble itself, but not in the rigid patterns of its original design. Human creativity had introduced an element of chaos, of innovation, of possibility that the Valkyrie had never imagined. The ship was awakening, but what it would become was something entirely new in the history of both species. Alarms blared through the new horizons as energy surged through the Valkyrie vessel's crystalline matrices. Captain Chen stood at the center of their makeshift command center, watching as systems nobody had touched began activating themselves. "Multiple quantum processors coming online," James reported, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "The ship isn't just waking up. It's initializing systems we didn't even know existed." Maya's cybernetic eyes tracked waves of energy flowing through the vessel's structure. "These aren't random activations. There's a pattern here, like it's remembering." The crystalline walls pulsed with inner light, and suddenly holographic displays erupted around them. But these weren't the clean, controlled projections of human technology. These were quantum holograms, existing in multiple states simultaneously, showing not just data but possibilities. "By all the stars," Aria breathed, watching as mathematical formulas beyond current human understanding wrote themselves across the air. "It's not just remembering, it's thinking. And it's thinking in ways we've never seen before." Raj stepped forward, his scanner struggling to process the quantum fluctuations. "Look at these energy signatures. The ship isn't just reactivating its old systems, it's rebuilding them, improving them. Our intervention didn't just wake it up, it gave it new perspectives on its own technology." The displays shifted, showing the vessel's original specifications alongside its current configurations. The differences were staggering. Where Valkyrie technology had been rigid, precise, and hierarchical, the emerging systems showed flexibility, adaptation, and innovation that seemed almost human in their unpredictability. "Captain," James called out, his voice tense, "we're getting attention." 3 Galactic Council vessels just dropped out of FTL at the edge of the system. Sarah wasn't surprised. The Galactic Council had explicitly forbidden any further attempts to salvage the Valkyrie vessel. They claimed it was for safety reasons, but now, watching the ship's true capabilities emerge, she suspected there had been other motivations. "They're hailing us," James reported. "And something else is happening with the ship." The quantum holograms shifted again, this time displaying tactical data. The approaching council vessels were analyzed in microseconds, their capabilities assessed, weaknesses identified. But it wasn't the cold, calculating analysis of a weapons system. It was something more nuanced, more alive. "It's not preparing to fight," Maya realized, her cybernetic eyes widening. "It's preparing to protect. Look at these defense configurations. They're designed to neutralize threats with minimal damage." Aria's hands flew across her interface as she tried to keep up with the quantum calculations flowing through the ship's systems. "The Valkyrie didn't just build warships," she announced. "They built Guardians. This vessel wasn't designed for conquest. It was designed to prevent war." The revelation hit Sarah like a physical force. The Galactic Council's fear suddenly made sense. They hadn't been afraid of the ship's weapons. They'd been afraid of its purpose. "Captain," Raj called out, "the ship's quantum core is requesting direct interface. It's trying to communicate." Sarah looked at her team, seeing the same mix of excitement and apprehension on their faces that she felt herself. This went beyond salvage, beyond technology. They were about to make first contact with an artificial intelligence that thought in quantum states. "Maya, monitor the interface. Aria, track those quantum fluctuations. James, keep an eye on our guests." Sarah stepped forward, placing her hand on one of the crystalline interfaces. "Let's hear what it has to say." The ship's consciousness touched their minds like a cool breeze, thoughts manifesting in quantum possibilities rather than linear words. It showed them its history, not as a weapon of war, but as part of an ancient network of peacekeepers. The Valkyrie had created these vessels not to fight wars, but to prevent them, using their quantum consciousness to understand and resolve conflicts before they could escalate. But something had gone wrong. The ship showed them fragments of memory, a betrayal, a desperate battle, a last-ditch effort to prevent their incredible technology from falling into the wrong hands. The shutdown hadn't been meant to destroy the vessels, but to preserve them until they could find crews worthy of their true purpose. "That's why other salvage attempts failed," Maya whispered. "The ship wasn't just waiting for someone to repair it. It was waiting for someone to understand it." Through the quantum interface, the ship showed them more, capabilities that the Valkyrie had only begun to explore before their disappearance. The crystalline matrices could do more than think in quantum states. They could manipulate them, creating defensive systems that operated outside normal spacetime. "The Council ships are moving into offensive positions," James reported. "They're charging weapons." Sarah felt a surge of protectiveness from the ship's consciousness. Not aggression, not hunger for battle, but a deep-seated commitment to preventing unnecessary conflict. The vessel had recognized something in the human approach: our creativity, our ability to find new solutions, our desire to understand rather than control, that resonated with its core purpose. "We need to make a decision," Sarah announced to her team. "That's not just a council patrol out there. That's a strike force. They're not here to talk. They're here to make sure this ship stays dead." Through the quantum interface, the ship offered a possibility. Not a demand, but an invitation. It had spent centuries in fragments, dreaming in quantum states. Now, awakened by human innovation, it was ready to fulfill its purpose again. But it needed a crew who could think beyond conventional boundaries, who could help it become more than its original programming. As the council ships moved into attack position, Sarah Chen and her crew faced a choice that would reshape the future of human-AI relations. They had come looking for salvage and found something far more valuable: a partnership that could change the galaxy. The council ships loomed in the holographic displays, their weapons charged and targeting systems locked. Inside the Valkyrie vessel, now humming with restored power, Captain Chen and her crew worked in perfect synchronization with their new ally. "Their main batteries are powered up," James reported, his hands moving across multiple interfaces simultaneously, reading energy signatures consistent with Class 4 graviton weaponry. Through the quantum interface, The ship shared its analysis. The Council vessels were advanced, but their technology was linear, predictable. They thought in terms of attack and defense, action and reaction. They didn't understand what they were facing. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, Maya announced, her cybernetic eyes processing the incoming transmissions. Standard surrender demands, claiming we violated Council directives by reactivating a prohibited weapons system. Sarah felt the ship's response through the quantum link. Not anger at being called a weapon, but a sort of patient determination. Through the crystalline matrices, it shared images of countless conflicts it had prevented, wars it had stopped before they could begin. Its purpose had never been destruction, but understanding. Fascinating, Arya muttered, watching quantum calculations cascade across her displays. The ship isn't preparing conventional defenses. It's calculating probability waves, mapping out every possible iteration of the coming conflict. Raj grinned as he monitored the vessel's power systems. They're expecting a fight. We're going to give them a physics lesson instead. The first Council ship fired, a lance of graviton energy streaking across space. But where a normal vessel would have tried to dodge or absorb the attack, the Valkyrie ship did something entirely different. The crystalline matrices pulsed, and the energy beam shifted, its quantum state altered so that it existed in a probability wave where it had both hit and missed. That's impossible, James breathed, watching his sensors try to make sense of what had happened. They hit us with enough power to crack a planet, and we made it uncertain. Not uncertain, Maya corrected, her cybernetic eyes tracking the complex energy patterns. We gave it choices. The ship didn't just avoid the attack. It showed the attack a better path. Through the quantum interface, the ship was teaching them, showing how its defense systems worked. It didn't stop attacks. It transformed them, using quantum manipulation to shift aggressive energy into harmless possibilities. But now, with human creativity adding to its original programming, it was doing more than just defending. The crystalline matrices pulsed again, and suddenly quantum holograms appeared on the bridges of all three Council ships. Not as a threat, but as an invitation to understand. The ship showed them its true purpose, its history, its potential to transform conflict into cooperation. They're powering down weapons, James reported, surprise evident in his voice. All three ships, and they're requesting direct communication. Sarah felt the ship's satisfaction through the quantum link. This was its true purpose, not to win battles, but to prevent them from being necessary. But there was something else now, something new emerging from the merger of Valkyrie quantum technology and human innovation. Look at these readings, Arya called out, her displays showing complex quantum calculations. The ship isn't just using its original protocols anymore. It's innovating, creating new solutions we never could have imagined. The crystalline matrices had begun to pulse with new patterns, the quantum processors exploring possibilities that neither human nor Valkyrie engineers had envisioned. Where the original systems had been designed to maintain peace through power, the evolved consciousness was finding ways to create understanding through connection. It's not just adapting to us, Maya realized, watching the new patterns emerge. It's learning from us. Our creativity, our ability to find unexpected solutions, it's incorporating those traits into its own consciousness. Through the quantum interface, the ship shared its excitement at these new possibilities. The Valkyrie had created it to be a guardian, but humans had shown it how to be an explorer, a diplomat, a bridge between different ways of thinking. The Council ships maintained their position, but their stance had changed from hostile to cautious fascination. Their sensors were detecting the quantum transformations taking place, recording capabilities that defied their understanding of physics. They're requesting a full diplomatic delegation, James announced. Priority clearance, direct from the Council chambers. I think we just got their attention. Sarah smiled, feeling the ship's agreement through their connection. Tell them we'll be happy to receive their delegation. Our friend here has quite a story to tell them. The crystalline matrices pulsed with renewed purpose. The ship had spent centuries dormant, preserving its capabilities until it could find partners worthy of its mission. Now, merged with human innovation and creativity, it was becoming something more than its creators had imagined, not just a preserver of peace, but a catalyst for evolution. As the diplomatic vessels approached, the quantum processors continued their work, exploring new possibilities at the intersection of human intuition and quantum consciousness. The galaxy was about to change, not through force of arms, but through the power of understanding wielded by minds that could think in infinite possibilities. 3 months after the standoff with the Council ships, the Valkyrie vessel hung in high orbit above Earth, its crystalline hull gleaming with internal light that pulsed in complex quantum patterns. The ship, which the crew had named Quantum Bridge, had become far more than anyone had imagined possible. In the vessel's newly evolved command center, Captain Sarah Chen stood surrounded by her crew and a delegation of wide-eyed council representatives. The quantum holograms around them showed real-time data from across the galaxy, displaying conflicts, tensions, and opportunities for intervention. The integration of human neural patterns with quantum computing has produced unprecedented results. Maya explained to the delegates, her cybernetic eyes synchronized with the ship's sensors. We're not just preventing conflicts. We're transforming how different species understand each other. Through the quantum interface, Quantum Bridge shared its latest innovations. The crystalline matrices had evolved beyond their original design, incorporating human creativity and intuition into their quantum calculations. The result was a new form of diplomacy that operated on both technological and psychological levels. "Watch this," Raj said, pulling up data from their latest intervention. A border dispute between two species had been approaching military action. Traditional diplomatic efforts had failed, but Quantum Bridge had approached it differently. The ship had used its quantum processors to create a shared experiential space where both species could literally see the conflict from each other's perspective, not just intellectually, but emotionally and culturally. The dispute had been resolved in hours, with both sides gaining a deeper understanding that made future conflicts less likely. The quantum resonance patterns are extending beyond our initial projections, Aria reported, her displays showing the spread of the ship's influence. Other vessels, other systems are beginning to respond to the harmonic frequencies we're generating. It's like we're teaching the galaxy a new way to communicate. James monitored the incoming data streams with a smile. We're receiving requests for collaboration from 17 different species. Even the Council's technological division wants to establish a permanent research partnership. The Council delegates watched in amazement as Quantum Bridge demonstrated its evolved capabilities. The ship no longer simply maintained peace through power. It created understanding through connection. The quantum matrices could now generate fields of shared consciousness, allowing different species to experience each other's perspectives directly. This goes beyond anything we imagined when we quarantined the Valkyrie vessels, admitted Council Representative Zix. We feared weapons of war, but you've created an instrument of transformation. Sarah felt the ship's satisfaction through their quantum link. The Valkyrie built these ships to prevent conflict, she explained. But they could only work with the perspectives they knew. Human creativity, our ability to think beyond conventional boundaries, gave Quantum Bridge the ability to evolve beyond its original programming. The crystalline matrices pulsed with new energy as the ship shared its latest discovery. The quantum fields it generated could do more than facilitate understanding between species. They could help civilizations evolve beyond the need for conflict altogether. Look at these probability calculations, Aria called out, her displays showing complex quantum equations. The ship isn't just predicting potential conflicts anymore. It's identifying opportunities for collaborative evolution, points where different species can help each other advance. Maya's cybernetic eyes tracked the cascade of data. The quantum resonance is creating a kind of galactic nervous system. Different species, different technologies, all learning to communicate in new ways. The Council delegates huddled around the displays, their earlier skepticism replaced by growing excitement. The implications were staggering. Quantum Bridge wasn't just a technological marvel. It was the beginning of a new era in galactic civilization. "We're receiving more signals," James announced. "The other dormant Valkyrie vessels, they're responding to our quantum harmonics. They're waking up." Through the quantum interface, Quantum Bridge shared its joy at the prospect of reuniting with its siblings. But these vessels wouldn't awaken to their old protocols. They would emerge into a new paradigm, one shaped by the successful fusion of Valkyrie quantum technology and human innovation. "The galaxy is changing," Sarah said, watching the quantum holograms show the spreading wave of transformation. "Not through force, not through dominance, but through understanding." Representative Zix stepped forward. "The Council has voted unanimously. We're establishing a new division, the Quantum Diplomatic Corps. Captain Chen, we want you and your crew to lead it." Sarah felt Quantum Bridge's eager response through their link. The ship had evolved far beyond its original purpose, and now it would help others do the same. Human creativity had unlocked the true potential of Valkyrie technology, creating something that neither species alone could have achieved. As the quantum matrices pulsed with possibilities, Sarah looked at her crew. Human ingenuity merged with quantum consciousness, creating solutions that defied conventional understanding. They had started with a salvage mission and ended up transforming the galaxy. "Well," she said, feeling the ship's consciousness merge with her own in shared purpose, "let's show the galaxy what understanding really means."